Hi guys. All right, I'm starting a timer so I don't run over, so we're good on that front. Thank you to CFBAA for having me. I'm excited to be back. I was here last year for the first one of these and it was a ton of fun, so I'm excited to see everyone. I hope that picture was flattering, Catherine. If it's not, I'm deleting it. So. All right, let me move this. All right, so today, what am I going to talk about? I loved Michelle's talk this morning. There are going to be some overlapping concepts, which I also love, because if I've learned anything in leadership, repetition is key to get people to hear the things that we think are important for you to absorb today. So we're going to touch on some of those themes again, but my general topic is going to be about breaking into business aviation. So my goal here for the students is to give you guys practical takeaways that you can use to start your career and then further your career once you get into business aviation. We're going to look at a couple of different areas. The importance of relationships. So we're going to talk about networking and mentorship and internships in a very practical way, how to get them, the benefit of them, and different tips and tricks that I have for you. We also are going to talk again about getting out of your comfort zone. Really, really important, especially for a lot of people that have approached aviation with either a military or a commercial airline objective. Business aviation in a lot of ways can be uncomfortable. It's something that's fairly unknown and it would require you to really go for it if you wanted to take a chance on business aviation. And then we're going to finish with, I called this selling yourself. I don't mean it in a negative way, but we're going to talk about nailing the interview. So some practical tips for really standing out if you're given the opportunity to go for an internship or a career opportunity in business aviation. All right, so a little bit more about Jetaviva, just as contextually for those that are considering careers in business aviation, I did want to tell you a little bit about the pre-owned aircraft sales side of our industry. So we are responsible for helping clients buy and sell used business jets, very similar to what you would see in a real estate brokerage, but we do that for business aircraft. That's the most simplest way to explain it. And that is what we do. At Jetaviva, we average about 100 transactions a year. So we're one of the largest resellers, as Lou mentioned, of pre-owned business jets in the industry. And over the last 2 years, we've transacted almost $1 billion in equatable transaction revenue. So we do a lot of business. We're very involved with the industry. And as a result, we get to meet a lot of wonderful people in the business because it takes really an ecosystem of companies to enable a pre-owned aircraft transaction. Let's see, you already heard about me, so we're not going to talk about that again. But the one question that I usually get the most is, yes, I do in fact have 7 children. I did not give birth to all of them. I have 5 stepchildren, 2 children of my own. And I do love to call people out though, because I have a lot of things that I'm interested in and passionate about. I'm very involved in this industry and I managed to pull it off while having that many kids. There's no excuses for anyone else in this room. So as long as we're clear on that point. All right, so let's talk about relationships. Business aviation is different in many respects because even some of the largest companies in business aviation will feel smaller than many of the main players in the commercial airspace. I worked for Embraer for 7 years. It's one of the largest aircraft OEMs in the business. And yet it still felt like a family, right? It's a Brazilian aircraft manufacturer. Culturally, that's very important to who they are. And so relationships were critical to the way that we worked as a company culture. And you see that exhibited in so many facets of business aviation. It's very unique. This is really beneficial for someone pursuing a career in the space because if you understand how well connected we are as an industry, you can leverage that to your advantage. So that's the takeaway I really want you to leave here with. And just like in any industry, in any career field, sometimes getting the job is much more about who you know than what you know. Would we all agree that that is true? We've all heard that. It's a bit cliche. It's very much true in business aviation as well. So how do you get to know us, right? That's ultimately the underpinning theme here is once you break into business aviation from a relationship standpoint, then there are so many things that you can do. So we talked about networking, mentorship, an internship. All are incredibly important. On the networking side, again, practical takeaways for you guys. The first thing I would encourage you to do is tighten up your LinkedIn page. Like, get it pretty. And this is something that we talk about as a business at Jetaviva. Just recently, we had a training on all aspects of social media and how it can benefit you from a sales perspective. And in many ways, pursuing a career is a lot like sales and marketing, right? You're marketing yourself, and then you're having a sales conversation in an interview to convince someone to hire you. So we're going to start with the marketing aspect of getting into business aviation. How you present yourself on your social media, and more specifically in your LinkedIn, is your first introduction to many of the relationships that you will have. So coming out of this event, I would strongly encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Then I'm going to look at your LinkedIn page, and it better look amazing, right? So I think it's very important to think about your headshot, which I love that they're taking headshots over here. But if you didn't dress your best today, if you're not feeling your look, go get a headshot, or have a friend that is good with a camera, put on a jacket, brush your hair, get a nice picture, right? These are subtle things, but they make a tremendous impact. Events like this are fantastic. I love that you guys are here, but events are only as good as what you make of them, right? So you're going to have the opportunity to have a lot of great conversations today, and I encourage you to do that. But the best thing you can do coming out of this event is follow up on those conversations. Be proactive, reach back out. Let that event chat that you had standing in line for the static display of that beautiful aircraft over there lead to something. Right? So think about taking these networking opportunities to the next level with the goal to be not just, I had a great conversation and I learned something, but I created a relationship. And where is that relationship really going to take me? And I also want to encourage you guys to get plugged in. I think business aviation does a really tremendous job of creating opportunities for these types of connections. There are regional groups like CFBAA all over the country. So if you're here going to school at Embry-Riddle, but you aren't from here and you're going to leave here and go back to somewhere else, there is a similar group probably where you live. Get involved. Inside of these groups are sales companies, marketing companies, OEMs, there's corporate flight departments, all kinds of different people that would love to get to know you, understand what your goals are, and support you in achieving those. As a plug, we mentioned the Space Coast Women in Aviation Alliance. We're a newly formed organization, but our entire goal, we take time out of our days and our careers and our time with our family, is to educate people on careers in aviation. So there are a lot of people that are really passionate about doing that, but we want students to take advantage of those opportunities. So I encourage you to do your homework, reach out, and get connected. So let's say you've done your LinkedIn homework, you followed up after the event, you've started that connection. What are you going to ask these people about, right? Like, what's the goal? Mentorship is a great goal. Mentorship does not have to be this big, heavy thing, right? I think sometimes hear mentorship and they think it's like, oh my gosh, I have to meet the world's most professional person, and then they're going to just guide me and shape me and coach me and mold me for the next 20 years, and at the end of all of that, we're going to share in our wins together. Like, that's amazing, and that would be great, but sometimes mentorship can just be a conversation that you have a couple times a year as like a check-in, or that person that you call when you have a tough career decision that you're trying to make, and you need someone to bounce it off of that understands what you're asking, right? Mentorship doesn't have to be this imposing, weighty thing. And it's as simple as asking the question. Again, guys, like, we're here to help. We offer our time. Many people would love to be that person for you, right? But the only way that you're going to find yourself having those kinds of conversations is by asking permission. Hey, I saw you speak, or I saw the podcast that you did, or I read a recent article that you contributed to in AIN, and I was so moved by what you said, and I would love the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better and share with you what I'm trying to do in my career. Somebody sends me that email, I'm not saying no, guys, like, because one, I love that you did it, and two, that's a super solid ask. So ask the question. find a mentor, because mentors in this industry are well connected. And we are happy to use our relationships to help you be successful. That's really what we're looking to do. All right. Mentorships can oftentimes lead to intern and career opportunities. I want to talk about internships a little bit more specifically because this is something at JetAviva that we've gotten much more involved in since I joined, and one of the things that we are learning as we get more involved in the internship world, especially for smaller businesses, okay, so larger companies. Embraer is another great example, Gulfstream, JSSI. They have structured internship programs. You go on the website, you're going to be able to learn all about them, right? But for many, many businesses in aviation, that's not the case. Where a lot of times we're too small, we're too lean, and we don't have fully formed, many people deep HR departments. And so when you go to our website, you may see nothing on there about an internship. And in fact, that's true at JetAviva. We actually offer 3 different internships of 2 different styles. One is unpaid, short-term, 90 hours max, but great way to learn our business. And then we offer a longer-term paid internship as well. But you heard it here from me, you're not going to find it anywhere else. So you have to be asking the right questions and realizing that just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean that it's not available to you. So internships can be a little tricky to navigate in business aviation. That's why the relationships and the mentorships are so key, because we happen to know this information and we'll share it with you, right? So a lot of these things happen by word of mouth. How do we find interns at JetAviva? Doing things like this. So we've been participating in this event and Auburn Business Aviation Days event for the last few years, and we meet our interns at places like this. People that followed up with us after and approached us, and then in some cases we've even put internships together that didn't exist, that fit the candidate and also the business need that we had at any given point. So there's a lot of flexibility there, right? So I loved what Michelle, or I don't know if I should call her Mace, I don't know if we were on a call sign name basis because I'm not a fighter pilot, but I love what she said about really getting out of your comfort zone and going for it, because the other thing that I've seen as it pertains to internships is that people aren't applying for them. They're talking themselves out of them. So recently, we have an intern on the JetAviva team who I shared an internship opportunity with that was put together by Gamma and Daher that provided a fully paid 8-week internship in the south of France to work for the manufacturer, learn all of their processes, and then come back over to the US and work Oshkosh. I read about this online, y'all, and I was like, I want to do this. Like, this is amazing. I couldn't apply. You had to be 18 to 24. I definitely don't check that box, and you had to be a full-time student. So I reached out to all of our previous interns, and I said, guys, like, go for this. This is amazing. Apply. This is such a cool opportunity. Out of the 6 previous interns that I reached out to, only 1 applied. Only 1 took the time to just go for it. Yes, I was shocked too. I see your eyebrows are raised. It was ridiculous. Guess what though? She got it. Okay? So like, if I'm not hammering home the point that sometimes you don't think you're gonna get it, oh, there's probably way more qualified people applying, oh my God, how would I live in the south of France, woe is me, for 8 weeks, go for it, right? Put yourselves out there. Try to go for these things. I think you'd really surprise yourself. So I want to touch on that a little bit more, right? One of the, I'm going to totally segue here. So I was watching a comedian the other night on Netflix, like, yes, we all do that. And he was doing his comedy show and a helicopter flew over his head. And it was the most disruptive thing that's ever happened in his life. He like had to stop the whole show, talk about the helicopter. And I was like, I should invite him to do a comedy show at a business aviation event where there is just constantly things happening. This poor guy wouldn't be able to handle it. So anyway, so let's talk about internships, and also when you see things for invitations to events, don't talk yourself out of why you should be there, right? Like, show up. reaching out about mentorships. Like, yeah, look, I get that that probably feels weird on your end. It doesn't feel weird on our end. We would love for you to do it. So really encouraging you to get out of your comfort zone, get uncomfortable, and go for it. I like the terminology that we used to use in sales and marketing where we talked about being professionally persistent, right? Or as I thought about rephrasing this slide was be a little bit annoying. It's okay, right? Like, I want to know that you want the thing that we're offering, right? At the end of the day, we're all really busy, and our main goal is running the day-to-day business. Like, that's what we're there to do. And so it is easy for that to not hit the top of our list, but I do appreciate follow-up, right? You might not hear back from me that first time on LinkedIn. That's just because, like every other person here, I probably don't go on it as much as I should. But you send me another message and you say, hey, I'm just politely nudging you here. I'd love to hear back from you. Like, I'm gonna A, be like, yes, thank you for calling me out on that. And B, like, absolutely happy to respond. So don't be afraid to be persistent. And just because you don't hear back from someone that first time, like, don't sleep on that. Keep it going. The same is true in sales, the same is true in marketing. And so this is the best thing too. I run a sales and marketing company. So if you're showing me that skill set and your desire to get an internship or a position with the business, you're already telling me you know how to do the job, right? You're signaling to me that you get it. The other thing I would encourage you guys to do, and I mentioned earlier on this topic of internships, is that a lot of businesses don't have these defined. I'm checking my time. I'm doing good. I would suggest, be willing to be proactive and be creative, right? Some of the best cover letters that I've ever received are people that say, hey, I acknowledge that you may not have a structured internship program. This is how I've heard of it working at other businesses. Would you be open to discussing? Like, you just showed me 1, that you're proactive, 2, that you're creative, 3, that you're persistent, and 4, that you have the business acumen to understand what it is that we do and consider putting a solution in place that, yes, benefits you, but also benefits me. I love that. Was it that hard? No, it was like a 2-sentence email. But you're signaling greatness, right? And that's what we're looking for. I put a note on here, and I think it's important as we segue into this getting the interview and nailing the interview part of this presentation is there is a tremendous amount of value in a great first connection. I'm going to give you a very real-time example. I'm having a sort of exploratory interview conversation tomorrow with a candidate. I don't have a job posted, not looking to fill a position. She reached out to me, and it was one of the best cover letters I've ever seen. So first of all, do not ship on the cover letter, okay? I don't know if anyone's giving you advice on like, you don't really need a cover letter, just load your resume. Like, no. It was incredible. She did a great job of talking about her abilities in a way that was engaging, and also she had done the appropriate amount of research to understand what I might be looking for and then offered her skill sets to see if there might be a potential fit there. And I don't have exactly what she's looking for. But I was willing to be creative and say, look, let's have a conversation. It might not be this, but I might have something else for you. Are you interested in that? And I'm doing that because she did such a tremendous job on that first outreach. So I cannot undersell how important that can be, and that's in any industry, guys. So whether you're going for a career in commercial or the military or in business aviation, these are things that are essential, not only as you are starting your career, but as you're looking to build your career. You may get to a point 5 years in, don't love what you're doing, see company X over there and go, God, that looks like a lot of fun. Reach out, send the email. You never know where it might take you. I also get a lot of terrible emails, which I'm going to share some with you just because I think they're really funny, and also so that you never ever do this. One, a lot of people have no idea what Jetaviva does. What cracks me up about that is that they don't do like the 2 seconds worth of reading on our website to figure that out. And so they'll reach out to me about like, oh, I'm looking for a job, would love to work on your manufacturing line, helping you build airplanes. And I was like, we don't build airplanes. Or, I know you're laughing, like it's crazy, but it happens all the time. I also get the people that reach out to me, and it's a templated email, and it says, hey, first name, like in parentheses. So they didn't actually insert my first name, that's fun. So people, I know, people sort of try. Like they try, they don't try all the way. So I am encouraging you, like if you're gonna do this, like go all the way, like do it right. Because if you send me one of those emails, I'm not responding, I'm gonna delete it. So let's talk about, okay, you've now, because you are really good listeners and you have followed all of my steps, you've created these relationships by networking at an event like this, you followed up, you maybe had some mentorship conversations, it led you to a great internship, and now you're trying to get a job. And you've got this great resume because you had all these great internships, and you have good references because you have mentors, so you're ready, right? You got the interview. Well, this is kind of where the rubber really meets the road. And I think this is an area that a lot of people struggle. So if you were here last year, I talked about this a little bit. And I think it's important to revisit some of these concepts because I love this quote. I have no idea who said it. But it says, people don't pay you for how much knowledge you have. They pay you for how well you package your knowledge. And I believe that that is really, really true. And I would say also, coming into an industry out of college, we don't expect you to know everything. What we want you to show us is that you're able to learn and you have a lot of the right raw material that we can help use to make you successful and also make our businesses successful. So how do we identify that? We use the interview, truly. You got to the interview because of your resume. At that moment, it's no longer sufficient. Now I want to know what kind of a person you are, how you communicate, what your character is like, your ability to read the room, your ability to have a conversation. Okay, so there are two parts of interviews that I think trip people up more than any others. Two questions people just really struggle with. The first one is the easiest one. Tell me about yourself. I ask this question every time I start an interview because in my mind, now I've changed my thought process around this. Originally I thought like, oh, this is a good icebreaker, like this will warm them up. Let's ease into this thing. And then people struggle with this. I think it's because it's very hard to talk about yourself. It's a little bit uncomfortable and it's a very open-ended, vague question. Like, what do you want to know? Do you want to know like what my favorite hobbies are? Or like how much I like my dog? Or what I did yesterday? Like people's minds, just you can see them. It's like they're spinning. So practice your answer to this question. I cannot beg you enough. I should be able to walk up to you and say, tell me about yourself, and you have about 30 seconds to a minute of solid content that you're going to give back to me that help me understand a little bit about who you are and why you're sitting in front of me or on Zoom for this interview, right? I can't tell you what to say. I can't tell you exactly what that looks like for you, but I promise you, if you don't have that nailed, reschedule the interview, like push it. Here's my favorite tell me about yourself debacle interview story. So, I got a great candidate. He was referred by someone on my team who I really trust her opinion. She had worked with him before. He had a great resume. He had good experience. I'm like, great, okay. So here we are. Relationship, mentorship, great resume. He got the interview. We've checked all the boxes. And then I said, tell me about yourself. And then he spoke without pausing for 38 minutes. That's too long. So just as guidance, 38 minutes is an excessive amount of time to answer the tell me about yourself question. And I don't say this to embarrass him. I know you don't even know who he is. But here was a very qualified, professional, experienced individual that didn't understand how to answer this question, was nervous, and ultimately did not get the position. So it's really, really important that you start off on the right foot. So I do encourage you to figure that out, like have some bullet points and nail that. The other thing I think that's important here is how do you stand out early in the interview, right? So here's a challenge that I believe you're going to face as students coming out of here. Again, applying for any kind of job, but let's say you're going for your dream job, whatever industry it's in, whatever job it is. You look a lot like other students. That's the problem, right? You guys have similar experiences that led you to Embry-Riddle, then you had similar experiences while in Embry-Riddle, and so you're coming out looking very similarly on the surface like your peer group. So how do you differentiate yourself quickly? That's critical. The interview is the best place to do that. My guidance to you on this point is to be really authentic, right? I don't want you to look like everybody else. I don't really want you to sound like everybody else. I want you to be who you are. And what's really great, and one of the things we celebrate at Jet Aviva, this is big for us, is we love the crazy stuff that we all do that has nothing to do with our jobs. I want to hear about it. There's a girl on my team that rides horseback and shoots guns at targets and is like amazing. And then there's a girl on my team that rides motorcycles competitively off-road in places like Nepal, across these crazy bridges. And then there's, I've got pilots and parents and dog lovers. Lau is on my team. Lau has 2 dogs. If you follow Lau on social media, you'll know everything about her dogs. Right, but this is the part of the process where I get to know you as a human being and not just as a sheet of paper. And I think that it's hard for people because I think there's this general expectation that you have to kind of tamper down all of the personal stuff in an interview and keep it super professional, and yet you can really run the risk of being boring and just kind of falling into the pack, right? So be authentic. All right. Second question that really people struggle with in an interview. Wait, time check. There's probably a way to make my phone not go to sleep. Okay, a few more minutes, perfect. Second question is the one at the end that I ask you. Do you have any questions for me? Oh God, guys. Okay, first of all, don't say no. I think we covered everything. Like, no, we didn't possibly cover everything. We've been talking for 35 minutes on average. I've been in this industry for 12 years and I run one of the biggest companies in the world. I promise you, we didn't cover everything that you could possibly ask in 35 minutes. So don't say that. But this is hard, right? Because I think people struggle and they don't know what kinds of questions, and they really want to ask about compensation, but then they really don't want to ask about compensation. So again, they get rattled and they bail. So prepare for this, but I want you to think about your approach to this portion of the interview is not about you trying to sound smart. We've already covered that. We've talked about you. This is your opportunity to interview me. This is your opportunity to decide if this is a company that you really want to be a part of, if this is a culture that meets your goals and your objectives, and it's going to work for your work-life balance, and it's going to ultimately enable you to care for your family when you have one. This is your moment to figure that out. And a lot of people just think that it's still part of the interview and you're trying to ask the smartest question because I'm grading you on that. Again, I know that you are a human being and I want to make sure that this is the right fit for you. The way for you to figure that out, ask me questions, right? So think about that portion of the interview as an opportunity. If you ask better questions, you're going to get better answers and you're going to make better career decisions. If you don't ask those questions and you just are so excited to be getting a job and then you show up at your job and you aren't happy, a lot of that's because you probably didn't challenge the narrative enough, right? This is where you really check a company on their culture. So I've used a lot of thematic things here. Here's a suggestion, right? You want to understand a company culture, ask how they show appreciation to their employees. Ask. If they hesitate, be concerned. If the answer doesn't roll off the tongue and they don't share the answer to this question with joy and enthusiasm, I would be concerned about that. Right? So that's a practical way of understanding if this is going to be where you want to spend 40, 50, 60 plus whatever hours a week with these people. A lot of that's on you. So I'm going to put that on you, and I want you guys to not ship that part of the interview. Super critical. So I'm at the end of my time, and really, guys, our goal by being here, all of the professionals that are here today, is we want to help you find the career that's the best fit for you. That may be in business aviation. I would love it if it is, because I'm very passionate about this industry. It's been tremendous for me in my career, but ultimately we want to see you succeed. And we offer a tremendous amount of opportunity if you're willing to get uncomfortable and ask for our support. I saw something on the Masters last week. I don't know if you guys watched it. But the top amateur, I think his name was Sam Bennett, he had a tattoo on his arm. Now, I'm not promoting that you have to tattoo this on your arm, although it was a very meaningful story. But the tattoo said, "Don't wait to do something." And I loved that it said that, because you are going to be presented with opportunities, and it might not feel like the right time, and you might not feel like you're prepared or qualified enough. But I do encourage you to follow his advice and don't wait to do something. Thank you guys very much.